after the design cohort sessions on just what's happening in the job market. And we didn't want to make the design cohort just about the job market. So I thought I'd split this out into its own kind of webinar. And we have seen a few minor shifts from 2025. And then also just been working and coaching a lot of people on how to position yourself in this volatile design market. There are a lot of dynamics going on. And I think a lot of people kind of, if they got laid off or, if they're in some sort of transition, um, it's hard to kind of put your finger on the pulse of exactly what you should be doing differently than maybe what we were taught works. And so things have really, really shifted. It's just a new landscape. So we're going to go over some of that today. Also, this is designed for kind of senior mid-level people. Okay, so this does not take like entry level, coming out of college, any of that is quite a different dynamic. You'll see some of why that might be a different dynamic, but I'm not going to get into how to approach that. This is really for kind of that senior mid-level design professional who's trying to figure out how to position themselves in this kind of new marketplace. So that's where we'll be starting. This is more of a lecture series, but please feel free to put any questions in the chat. But this is unlike the cohort where we're trying to do two-way dialogues. This is more about kind of giving information and knowledge and share out. Okay, cool. So for those of you that don't know me, because there were quite a few people that aren't part of my community, the design cohort, I have spent 20 plus years in corporate design across four Fortune 500 companies, one startup. I'm currently at an agency, and I worked my way up to head of design and executive level leadership by the time I was 40. So I figured out a way to kind of accelerate my own career and also do this in a way that was really self-driven because as you guys probably know by now, most of you, is that the design industry doesn't really give you a playbook for mid-level career and beyond. You kind of have to invent it yourself. You have to figure it out yourself. And I think that is a bit unfair and unnecessary, which is why I've started to do a lot of this coaching because I was able to kind of crack the nut and figure out how to accelerate my own career. And I've turned that into a playbook and I'm now coaching and guiding others on how to do that. The kind of joke here, I guess, on me is that I've decided to do it in the most volatile market ever. So, but I am finding a lot of great success, which I'll get into and show you guys where we're finding those successes here in a minute. Okay. So we'll go through some of that. All of this just to say I am a creative at heart. My degree is in graphic design. I've been an artist since I was 8 years old. That's all I've ever really known and been good at and been passionate about. So truly do hold that kind of creative spirit. Not to like diminish anyone else's kind of path, but some people are maybe like business people turn, design leaders, and that's totally fine. But I just want, those true creatives, those true designers to know that that is kind of the root of where I started my journey, was in figuring out how to kind of make a profession out of my passion and my talent. So it's just a little bit about me. I do also, in addition to the leadership coaching and career coaching that I've been doing for designers, I started a community called the Design Cohort. If you haven't already joined it, I believe Jeremy put the link in the chat. Membership is free. So please take a look at that. I'm not going to go much into it, but just know that everything I'm talking about today is all kind of under the umbrella of the Design Cohort, which is on a mission to really just make the design industry a better place and support design professionals throughout their career. Again, as I stated earlier, I don't think there's a lot of support for designers in figuring out how to thrive in a business-led world. When you graduate from college, you just kind of are thrown into it, and then you go, holy cow, no one taught me how to do this. So you either learn the hard way, or you find a great boss, or you find a great mentor, but those things aren't guaranteed. So it shouldn't be quite so hard for us to thrive and have, thriving careers as it is right now. So just, come join the cohort and you'll get all the information you need from there if you miss anything else today. So even this recording, I'll be posting it. So um, I'm going to do the salesy part now and get it out of the way. But I am currently running three programs. My Get Unstuck program is my flagship coaching program. This is the one that I have probably the most business in right now. It is high touch, one-on-one coaching for an individual. And we work through why might you be stuck and how to create an action plan to not just get you unstuck, but to thrive post the coaching program. Today, we're going to kind of be plugging this workshop that I'll be doing, which is Design Your Next Role workshop. This is really for the individual who knows what they want. They just need to get all their stuff together, their resume, their portfolio, how to talk about themselves. They need to start networking. They need to start doing job outreach. So I'll be running that workshop Saturday, February 21st. I will put a link in the chat here in a minute. And then I'm also doing a resume reboot. This is just like a quick fix for somebody who maybe doesn't need all of the other things and support. They just need to maybe strengthen their resume. And I've been helping people rewrite their resume. I did six just in the last couple weeks. So just really helping people get resumes stronger, get them through ATS systems, talk about what they did in a more elevated way. And this is actually a pretty popular program too. So I just started doing that in January. I was doing it kind of casually, but I turned it into a program. So just know that all of this is available to you. And you can find it all on the designcohort.com if you need to, but we did put individual links into the chat as well. And just to prove that I'm not just sitting here selling you pretend stuff, there are actual testimonials. I do actually work with clients. People are going through the programs and finding great success. I actually just a couple weeks ago had a client reach out to me and DM me saying that she had just gotten a job at Sherwin-Williams. Super exciting for her, and I was just elated to hear that. So I've seen 5 job placements. I've seen 2 people decide to be consultants through this program. And one person who thought they needed to leave, but actually decided that we were coaching her to stay in place. So you don't always have to leave your job to get help. Sometimes the best thing to do is figure out how to thrive where you are. So there are many ways to kind of be successful. And this is just, again, to show a little bit of the proof is in the pudding. I started my way as a designer, worked through several CPG companies. Each move was helping me move my career forward and accelerate my career. So they weren't just leave a job because I was failing at it. It was more so leave a job because I had outgrown it. And I was ready for the next thing. And, each job move that I decided to make was in service to something that served me and either served my career or my family. And so that's something I coach a lot is trying to find that alignment with what a job's going to help you do, help serve you. So we're not caught in this trap of you were just working a job to work a job, because it has to fit your lifestyle and your needs and your goals as well. So that's something really important. And I think especially when we get to mid-career, it's even more important because that's not always written for us. So we don't have a playbook to follow. So that's just, again, a little bit of like reason to believe me that I actually did do what I say I do. So a little bit of proof in the pudding there. All right. So all of that to say, why are you here today? Because this is about you, right? So you may be here because you got laid off, or maybe you're going through a career transition. This is happening a lot. We're going to go through why, and we're going to talk about what to do about it. Maybe you're stuck in role. I've coached many people that are like, I've been at this company 14 years, an agency 14 years, and I'm not getting promoted. They're bringing in creative directors above me, and I can't figure out why. Okay. So that's maybe a reason that you're here. What's going on in the market that I'm kind of stuck in role? You're probably sensing the huge market shifts as we speak. You probably saw them all in 2025, which was a wild ride for everyone. And maybe you're just concerned about your job future in this industry. What is that going to look like? And you might be a little scared about that. You might be like, am I going to have a job? Is AI going to take my job? These are all, really legit reasons to be here today. And maybe, worst case scenario, you're questioning your existence as a designer, design professional, adjacent role. Should you abandon ship and go do something else? Right? So I've heard this a lot. All good reasons to be here today. And we'll be assessing like what is happening in the market. So you'll leave here today with perspective, language, and insight to help you see your situation more clearly and approach what is next with more intention instead of just chaos and pressure. Okay. Sometimes clarity is the best place to start, right? When we're feeling all these feelings. And you'll leave with a clear diagnostic of the current design market and some potential next steps to help you approach your own career or your career move if you're looking to shift gears or you're looking to get promoted. So we'll go through some of this today. Again, this is more of a surface level kind of lecture webinar to just help you assess the situation. And there are many opportunities to go deeper. Okay. So we know the state of the industry right now is evolving for everyone. This isn't just for design, but we will be focusing on design. But you may talk to some of your coworkers, your friends, and you're seeing some similar things going on for them too, right? But the shifts that we are seeing in the marketplace, and we'll go through some of these a bit deeper, but in general, we'll cover most of these, is we're seeing a general upskilling happening. I'm going to go through what that means, okay? We all know AI and AI integration has been a huge kind of shift in how work is getting done and the future of work. There's just constant volatility day to day. There's inconsistency on what happened yesterday. It may not be what's happening tomorrow. Stagflation, we're seeing that starting to play a role. Hopefully, we're coming out of that a little bit, but there's no telling what will happen in a week from now. Design value is really under pressure. And I think this is one that, the devaluation of design is a huge topic in itself that we've tackled in the design cohort. But, something to keep in mind is how do you show your value? So that's a huge component of what's happening. And because of the market dynamics, which I'll dig deeper in the next slide, we're seeing a lot of role consolidation and kind of scope creep in role. Okay. Um, I don't want to be like the naysayer, but this is kind of the starting point of where things are. So what happened in 2025? We call it the perfect storm because everything was kind of just happening all at once. And so it just caused everything to just feel bigger and be exacerbated by it all happening at once. So it wasn't just one thing that happened, it was many things. So let's break it down a little bit because identifying what happened can often help us figure out how to accept it and move on or how to position ourselves for the new market. So that's what you want to think about as we go through this, okay? It's not going to change. This is what happened. This is where we are. The thing that we have to solve is how does an individual position themselves to live in the in the new reality, okay? So just going through some of the big rocks, political changes were driving huge uncertainty in the market. If you just think about tariffs alone, I mean, when we started 2025, it was like, are tariffs going to be there? Are they not? Are they 100%, 25%, 12%, 0%? It was just a daily occurrence of what was going to happen. What that means is that companies, big corporations like the Fortune 500 companies that we often work for and who honestly hold the purse strings of the economy, they were going, holy cow, we don't know what this means for our bottom line. Stop all hiring. Okay. And then what happens from there is then they start going, okay, no, some of these tariffs or some of these things are sticking and we may need to lay people off. And so we did see a massive amount of layoffs last year. That was one reason why we saw a lot of layoffs or flattening of the job market. The other one is that, I'm not sure if you guys have read about this in the news, you probably have, but there was a huge inflated bubble of hiring that led to everyone realizing they had overhired post-COVID or really during COVID. So 2020, what happened? COVID hit. We all remember that. And hiring froze. But then when everything started settling, hiring overly spiked. So it's kind of like the housing bubble a little bit. There were just too many people hired, especially at manager levels. Okay. So if you're a mid-level career person, you're really feeling this right now. Because then what happened in 2025 is less jobs were added to the market. I don't know if you guys know this number, which was just baffling to me, but Jeremy and I had to read this like a couple of times because we were like, that's it. But only 584,000 jobs were added in all of 2025. So yeah, that pressure that you're feeling is real. The numbers show that it is real. Okay, we're not making this stuff up. So an average of 50,000 jobs were added a month, but post-COVID boom, we saw about 400,000 jobs added per month. So that's a huge discrepancy there, right? So we're seeing fewer openings, slower movement, longer hire times. There's not this like rush to fill a job that there used to be. So yeah, you are seeing maybe like we hear these stories all the time. Somebody going, I'm on my third interview. I expected to have had an offer by now. And then maybe that job just goes away because they can, because everything's slowed down, because they want to make sure the butt they're putting in the seat is the right individual. It's no longer just get a butt in the seat. Okay, so it is harder, and we're feeling that. So that is the reality. You're not making it up. These aren't just feelings. This is happening. Okay. The other thing that we're seeing is that when somebody leaves a company or when there's kind of a reorg going on, a lot of leaders are asking, can we absorb that headcount? So instead of saying, oh, it's a one for one swap, we let some people go, we got to rehire, it's not anymore. Okay. They're really kind of scrutinizing if that role is even necessary. So they'll kind of stretch out how much time between like somebody leaving and somebody coming back in. And so we're feeling that as well because that means the individuals that stay at the company or stay in role are having to absorb that work. Okay, so burnout is really high. Um, but what we're finding is, and you'll see in a second that this is starting to stabilize, right? And then AI craziness. We don't overly have to talk about this. I think everyone knows this story. But it became a household name. And I think the piece that really hurts workers here is executive leaders who don't necessarily use AI that much, but going use AI. And they don't know what that means. They don't know what that looks like. They're not training to say, hey, here's how you use AI effectively. So it's just become kind of a buzzword. And a lot of executive leaders use it and say, oh, AI can do that, AI can fix that, get AI to do it. But they're not giving us the training and the information as to how to do that. We kind of have to go out and take our own time, personal or at work, to go out and learn AI. And also, they're assuming that AI can do the job of a human, which we all know to be not true. That's a false fact, right? So that's another component of what really happened in 2025 was trying to figure out where AI plays a role. And, year on year, these things don't go away. So going into 2026, well, the other thing we saw in AI that I should hit on is that a lot of companies kind of held off on filling jobs to see if this was a quote unquote job AI could do. So that was another reason we kind of saw hiring slowing down or honestly flattening. Okay, so to bring in a little humor, because that looks pretty gloom and doom. This is the new norm, but 2026 is starting to stabilize. We're only in February, but we are starting to see what we call signals in the market. of where things might be heading and where they might land. Um, I will say there aren't hard, fast 2026 job numbers yet that have been published. There's some projections, but nothing that anyone's saying, yeah, this is, how many jobs were added in January. Not going to get into why, but that's being held off for a hot minute. So we don't have those numbers yet. So we don't know if it's going to be getting better or if it's going to kind of stay the same, but let's just call this a stabilizing period of time. Because companies are starting to get a grasp on what, using AI really means. There's more focus on AI as a co-pilot versus the kind of thing doing the thing. People are realizing it needs a human to kind of drive it. So people are getting more in tune with that. We're seeing that AI is more focused on workflows and administrative tasks, and that's really where it plays a bigger role. Data, analysis, that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of people thought, oh, AI will fix this creative problem I have. And they're realizing that it can do some of like the quick churn things, but it can't come up with a brand identity, you know? And so that's kind of how we're seeing that play out more. So companies are starting to actually see more of the value that design, especially at mid-level and senior levels, can bring, and that design thinking is necessary. Um, a lot of companies now have a good idea of how tariffs are affecting their bottom line, so they can make better decisions on where they're going to hire people because they're kind of starting to see the effects of tariffs on their budgets and profits, et cetera. Okay. So we now have a new equilibrium of the true job market. So that inflated number that we got used to, um, we now have a more realistic number. It may be around 50,000 to 75,000. 75 would be a healthy number. But that kind of 400,000 jobs a month number that was inflated, we realized that was a very inflated number. So that's not the norm. The new norm is more like what we're seeing now. Um, but now, like I said, we know what to expect, right? So that, all right, this is our starting baseline. What do we do with it? So why are so many designers feeling stuck and so stuck right now? All the things that we just went through. There are less jobs out there, right? So this means that we have to figure out where are companies wanting to upskill. What does upskilling mean for design, and what can that look like? So we'll get into that here in a second. Um, yes, the goalpost has moved on you. So where you were like, oh, I'm about to score, I'm about to get that next promotion, that did move, right? So I don't know if anyone's ever read or heard the phrase like who moved my cheese? That's exactly what happened, unfortunately. So you may be feeling a little lost. You may be like, whoa, I did all the right things, but I'm not getting, the performance reviewer I wanted, or I'm not getting the promotion I deserve, or I'm not getting, the raise that I deserve. And those are all like, well, the goalpost moved on you, so now we got to find the new goalpost. Okay. The design industry itself does a great job on focusing on craft, that we all need to be really, really great at our craft, but it does not do a great job on helping us through career mobility and the skills needed to thrive in a business-led world. Okay, so that is a huge thing that I think most people, we see a really big gap in, unless you were fortunate enough to work at a company that did a lot of training or that really kind of valued giving designers kind of that business side of training that they needed. This is something you either need to go out and find on your own, get coaching, get training. And so there's a big gap here for a lot of people not understanding that skill that they need for the business to trust them and to value what they bring to the table. And this is a big one that we don't talk about enough, but we should. The old agency models, kind of the Mad Men era models, the idea that like all creative was kind of sent to an agency, it didn't belong in-house. We're still kind of working on that model, but the in-house amount of designers has grown exponentially, but they're not necessarily, these companies aren't necessarily giving designers the career advancement and opportunities that they deserve. We were often treated as quote unquote the redheaded stepchild of an organization. We're usually small, we're nimble, we get things done. But when it comes to career progression or development, we're not given a lot of resources. Okay. So that is why at mid, especially like senior and mid-level, we start feeling stuck because that more junior level, it's like, okay, I'm a designer, I'm a senior designer, maybe I'm an art director, maybe I'm a creative director. That's more linear. But beyond that, it's kind of like a free for all. So, and it's not written in stone. There are models out there. It's not to say there aren't certain companies who've done a better job of this than others. Like Nike's known for having a pretty robust design organization. But it's not necessarily industry standard. Like, whereas we look at engineers or marketers across several different companies, their industry is more standardized versus ours. Okay. So that often becomes an area where we get stuck because no one's handing us the playbook because there really isn't a standardized playbook to follow. Great. So what does upskilling look like for designers and what is upskilling? So upskilling is basically that the skills that companies are valuing and looking for have changed. Okay. And typically they have changed to want more and higher level skills out of one single individual. And this is a lot of where this is coming from is AI, because AI is able to do a lot of the kind of administrative tasks, and we'll just use that word pretty liberally. That now I think a lot of places are going, what can this person that's here, he used to do this, but now AI can do that faster than them, or they can use AI to do that faster. What else can they do for us? So that's upskilling. The other component that is upskilling is that when a company is, again, somebody's been let go, or maybe somebody just left the job and they're not replacing the role. Upskilling also happens when you go, well, now I don't want to replace this person. Can somebody else absorb their work? Okay. What this can look like in design, and we've seen this a lot, is that a designer is now kind of maybe also kind of a design project manager or an operational manager for design, because maybe that role never existed and there's a need for it, or that person that used to do that left, and now it's like, well, why can't each design manager kind of just absorb some of that? Okay. So that's what upskilling looks like. And it is becoming the new norm. So maybe we're like, somebody was a design leader and they were leading their team, and then the design team did all the work. Now, and I've actually placed some people in jobs where they've asked for this, is they want you to go to the meeting, be the leader, take all the notes, talk the design strategy, and turn around and also execute the work. So you're kind of playing two roles. So we are seeing some of these hybrid roles pop up of, you'll see that in the future in design, hybrid leader plus creator. So somebody who can roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty. It doesn't mean they're creating it all the way to production or all the way to market, but they're helping their team create. Okay. Whereas what I call it is the days of like the ivory tower design leader are probably over. So where you go to the meeting, you talk to all the higher ups, and then you like just kind of dictate to your team what to do. Um, Leaders are having less and less kind of I would say response to that. They're wanting to see somebody that's giving results. And so that delivery of visible work and visible results is more important than ever. And then being able to talk those results in business fluency terms, in their language, in the business language, is super important so that you can translate to them why what you did was important. How did you kind of deliver business results is important because, again, you're having to constantly show your value. This isn't necessarily new, it's just more important than ever. Okay. Um, and then we're also seeing like bigger picture thinking roles like systems thinking, human-led thinking. This is a big one that's becoming more important is workflows and operational models are being valued by business leaders because they're seeing that that helps with the bottom line. If an operation or a workflow is streamlined, it happens more seamlessly. There actually is one, or maybe a lot of times in design there isn't one. And they see that that adds value to how work gets done more seamlessly, is really important. And this is an area that AI integration can really kind of play a role as well. And then the other piece that we're seeing, you guys may have seen this through some social listening, but storytelling is becoming really valued again because of all of the social media kind of just like washed away all the value that brands had because everyone's always bombarded by like messages that consumers are looking for that brand love again. So brands are having to kind of reestablish like connections with consumers, and that comes in how they tell their story. I don't know if anyone ever read the book like Love Marks. All of that's resurfacing. All of this of like brands should have stories. So the kind of brand storyteller type roles or the design storyteller type roles are kind of resurfacing again. So hopefully a little bit of like light at the end of that tunnel because there's some fun things happening on this slide that I think a lot of people can do. This isn't to say that the doing is devalued, but I think because AI can start doing some more of the doing, people are putting more value in the thinking. Okay. Um, so um, So what we're seeing is new skills at senior to mid levels. These are the actual skills that we're seeing. So systems thinking. Um, how does this task connect to the entire system? There is a lot of AI in this, and I think it's just to show that like AI is playing a role in everyone's jobs. It's just figuring out what is that role. So it's not say it's taking over the creative like making, but it should be playing a role in a lot of everyone's jobs. I mean, that's just the reality of the world we live in. So you may see AI sprinkled throughout here. So outcome first thinking, what is the outcome we're trying to create? Okay, so people that are like, hey, let's talk about what success looks like. This is very much a mid-level leadership level type of approach, but it's being expected that you're showing that skill set at a lower level than ever before. Human in the loop thinking, I think this is where design shines with our empathetic thinking. AI is a co-pilot. So AI doesn't necessarily do the thinking, but it can help us brainstorm. It can help us maybe gather data or analyze the data. So that's where, humans can kind of say, hey, AI, help me with this thinking, but they're leading that component. Abundance thinking versus scarcity, instead of being how can why are you expecting me to do more? You got to start asking, how can I expand my capacity? And, how can I solve problems at a higher level? And we're seeing rapid iteration experimentation, prototype fast, test fast, iterate fast, fail fast. But leaderships don't care as much of the how you got there. So I don't know if you guys remember, probably like 15 years ago, everyone was like, here's a new process, here's the design thinking, here's the ways to do things. Leaders are like, just get it done. Just get it to market and make sure it's quality, make sure consumers love it. But they're not like, show me the process you took. They don't care and they don't have the time to do that as much. So the process is left more on our shoulders. Okay. So learning agility, this is again like where training has kind of gone away, and it's expected that individuals are kind of just eager to learn. adapt and adopt new models and is kind of on your own accord. It's not being handed to you. You gotta go, it's expected, you know how to do this, go figure it out. Cross-functional thinking, that's always been there, but I think it's been harder because we're working more in silos. But there are ways that, we see when we're cross-functionally thinking that things are stronger. And that's coming out in a lot of AI workflows, things like, I don't know if you guys use Asana or like Notion, or any like Monday, like those kind of workflows where it connects people and cross-functional teams to stay interconnected, Slack channels, that kind of stuff. So how we connect cross-functionally is very different than the old get in the meeting room and talk it out. This is like constant connection through AI and technology. Strategic thinking over executional thinking. So asking the why. Basically, what this means is not just the what, not saying what are we delivering, but why are we delivering it? There's going to be a huge backlash, and this is quite happening yet, but we're going to see it is on ethical and responsible thinking. A lot of this comes from like how fast we're moving in AI. And then I can't say this enough, but workflow and operational streamlining is going to be really, really important. But that individual who's leading this work needs to have a bigger picture thinking of the why, what, and how, not just the how. So maybe we're traditionally operationally led people were just focused on the how, use this tool, use this workflow, use this, whatever. Now it's like, well, why? Why do we need it? What do we need it for? Now, how are we going to go make it? So that's one individual needing to kind of absorb all of that thinking. And if you don't believe me, I always like to give proof. So here are some of the titles that we are seeing pop up. Um, Most of these I took off of LinkedIn. I believe all of these I took off of LinkedIn. Okay, so the left-hand side may look like you may start looking at it and go, no, these are the job titles of today, but they're not. Director of Visual Strategy, executive creative leader. Why executive? Because it used to be you were just a creative director. Now what they're realizing is you need another level because we are flattening. And where does a creative director go? And they need that next level. So that's a good thing. We're seeing people going, oh, we need a higher level creative director. So again, I told you guys there's light at the end of this tunnel. So things like this was really cool. I kid you not. This is a Microsoft principal design architect. Okay. Generative AI design expert, Nike. Okay. So I'm not making these up. I tried to, for some of these, put the companies. These are really interesting. Senior creative technologist, AI models, Google, AI strategist. Okay. So it just keeps these are really getting into emerging type of titles and roles. Design lead design systems. You see the UX architect, Salesforce. So we have UX UI designers, but this is a UX architect, right? So, and these are when you read the descriptions, these were design people in the description of the role. So not like UX architect engineer. They were looking for a design person. So some interesting emerging titles kind of coming out. So hopefully that gives you an idea of like where things have been in 2025, the craziness that we felt, where they're starting to stabilize. We can't say they're stabilized yet, but we're only in February. So we're gonna have to kind of see where this plays out. And we're starting to see some signals, which is what today was about, is giving you guys signals of where you can possibly start thinking about how to position yourself for this kind of new marketplace that is being created as we speak. And this will continue to evolve. So I'll continue to hopefully tap into the community and continue to do a lot of research to see, where things will take us. When you're starting to think about where you want to go and what you want to do, most people go, I need a resume. Okay. And that's where they start. So if you're in the market for a new job, and you're going, I need to do my resume right now, Stop, because that is not the first thing you need. Okay. The very first thing that you need to do is position yourself and work your narrative. I've created and been working with people on this winning playbook, which is you don't just need a resume. Most people do. They think, oh, I just need a resume. I'm just going to go write my resume. And then they're lost in their resume. They don't know how to write it. So the winning playbook that I've created is it starts with your narrative. What are you about? Okay, what do you bring to the table? And creating that common thread throughout your story and your assets, because it's not just one asset that's going to get you the job. It's your narrative plus your winning resume plus your portfolio plus your network. So it's a plus plus plus. And a lot of people, this is where they go wrong. They think I have a resume, I'm ready to go, but their story is not cohesive, which is why I created the Design Your Next Role workshop, because that workshop is geared to getting all of your assets together and showing you what you need. For example, resume ATS systems right now are very specific. So we go through that, but we also talk about how do you elevate your language so that you can get that next level role. Okay. So this is the where most people go wrong. They start with their resume, write their resume, and then they don't know why they're not landing a job because their story is not cohesive. So if you're finding yourself in the job market, or you think you're going to be in the job market, or you're on the job hunt, maybe you're in current role, which is usually the best time to look for a job is when you're in a role. But it's the very first thing you start thinking about is how do you position yourself for this job market? How do you position yourself for the upskilling? What words are we using? How are we talking about the transferable skills that we have is very important. We all sit here and we think we have all these skills. I want to tell everyone my skills, but it doesn't matter if you're not telling it in a language that the audience cares about. So positioning yourself, just like any good design project, positioning is critical. I can't say this enough. And so that is why I created the Design Your Next Role workshop and the program and the winning playbook. And it's been working, guys. So I'm really excited to see people getting results from this. So I'll be running the next one Saturday, February 21st. It's a 3-hour workshop. We'll get our hands dirty. We're going to write our narratives. We're going to look at resumes. We're going to look at winning total end-to-end stories, LinkedIn profiles, and all of that, so that you can see what you need to do to get yourself ready for the job market. Okay. So that's probably the biggest kind of plug that I have for today. And also in the session, the workshop, you will get a 1-hour follow-up, one-to-one coaching session with me to review your materials. Because if you're not doing this plus, 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 especially in design, you're missing out on job opportunities. Okay. Um, and we'll talk through like how to approach the job market. And then, if you guys ever need to go deeper, or just want to, I have people that they're like, I don't want to share my coach with anyone else. I just want to coach just one-to-one. I do the Get Unstuck program, which is a 7-week program, which is we work one-to-one on where you're stuck, why you're stuck, and how to approach the situation in your specific situation so that it's specific to you. So that's what we have going on right now. I know, a lot of you may be kind of wondering how to approach the job market. Hopefully that helped. And, if you want to kind of continue on and get yourself resume ready, portfolio ready, and all of your assets together, I'd say, if you know what you want, the kind of job you're going for, Design Your Next Role workshop is the way to go. But if you kind of don't know what's next for you, the Get Unstuck program is a really great program for you to go into to kind of define what you want next. And you can get all of the information on that in the links. And then, yeah, just join the design cohort. We put out newsletters and information all the time about what's happening in the job market, how to approach it, and also what's happening in design. So it's been a really great community so far. So hope that kind of gave you guys an idea of how to kind of position yourself and think about your career and your next move, and give you a little bit of information on what's going on out there in the industry. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining, and I hope to see you guys around the design cohort. Come join the community if you're not already part of it. Thanks a bunch, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah.